Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. I see no invocation this morning, so we'll start with the pledge if you want to join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get into this, if you'd indulge me for just a second, during the winter months, I like basketball, and I'll go watch the high school play. I'll go watch our college play and see how they do, just for something to do. And this past weekend, we had our Long High School played for the state championship. This was a team that was 27-0. They had Coach Key and his group had a great year, and they ended up losing that by 2 points in a game that if they played it again tomorrow, it could just as likely go the other way. It was very well played, and so just congratulations to our Long High School and Coach Key for second in the state. So great job by that group. Okay, I'd entertain a motion for approval of minutes of March 2nd to 3rd, 2026.
March 2nd to 3rd.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any corrections, comments, anything on those? Better get my chat window up just in case. Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Run down through consent agenda. Pretty short agenda today. Finance Department interlocal agreement with City of Kelso for district court services. I don't know if we have any cities left. That's the last city. Okay. Agreement with City of Castle Rock for the Six Rivers Regional Trail System Phase 2 project, amount of $70,800. We actually approved that quite a while ago, and that's coming in. Public Works retainage bond from Advanced Excavating Specialist LLC for the leachate line emergency repair. We're having some work done on that, unfortunately. Building and Planning, we signed an interlocal agreement with the City of Woodland for plans examiner and building inspection services. We do it, I think we do it for all the cities now, don't we? All but Kelso. All but Klamath, okay. Prosecuting attorney and interagency agreement with Washington State Department of Commerce for the 2026 victim witness domestic violence grant, amount of $31,635. I think this is a yearly repeat, isn't it?
This is new or additional funds that became available. February 4th, we were notified the deadline to apply February 11th, and it's about $31,000 that became available to our office through June 1st. So
perfect. Okay. Correspondence, letter dated 3/10/26 to Kimberly Lefebvre, appointing to the Fair Board. 4-year term expires end of October 2028. Letter dated 3/10/26 to Paul Hellenberg, appointed to the Public Facilities District, 4-year term that expires the end of February 2030. Letter dated 3/10/26 to Mick Henderson, extending sincere appreciation as his service at the Public Facilities District concludes. Letter dated 3/10/26 to our governor, Bob Ferguson, expressing support for reappointments of Millie Linville and Jim Anderson to the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Letter from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding 2025 dam safety inspection on SWIFT number 2. And a letter dated 2/24/26 from the Department of Ecology regarding consultation phase 2 of the Aville Fruit Water Banking Project. Sign resolution 26-012 for the declaration of emergency in the matter of the damages of leachate transmission line. Then we had vouchers last week in amount of $1,407,351.08. Any questions on consent? Okay, seeing none, I entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent agenda. Last call. Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We have a public hearing at 9:30, so we have some time before that. And then we have a work session at 10 with Kelso Longview Chamber of Commerce. So we just open it up to public comment. I believe you had something. Right up. Then there's a button on that mic, so you get a bright green light just to make sure it's on. Okay.
My name is Robert Portman, 3549 Old Pacific Highway South. I'm here to find out what the county is going to do with that.
Somebody.
Huh.
Okay.
Bright or light? You want me to start over?
You're, it's a culvert. Yeah, I think so, because they,
Robert Portner, 3549 Old Pacific Highway South, Kelso. I'm here to find out what the county is going to do with that culvert at, I guess it's a Fulbright Road. It's a 4-foot culvert that's almost totally plugged. I've tried for 3 years now to get somebody to do something with it, and they're not doing anything. I just want to know why. Are we going to wait till it floods and then have to shut the road down to do it? Or are they going to clean the culvert, clean the outfall of the culvert?
No, when you brought this up before, I asked to have it looked at and to see what we can do about it. And I know it's on, at this point, it's on the list to be evaluated and the timing of it, because apparently it is some type of a fish bearing stream. Is that correct?
Well, originally, yes. It isn't now. And if I'm on the list, I've been trying to get this clean for at least 3 years. It must be a long list.
Well, I can't vouch for anything for 2 or 3 years ago, but I can tell you that right now I was looking for a window, I believe, for when we can get in there under the Department of Ecology and Fishery and all those people who have to approve our access to be able to go in there and block that off and clean it out.
You don't have to block it off. You just have to clean out where the outfall.
Well,
It can't clean out, the culvert can't clean itself out if it's got no place for the rock to go.
I understand that, but if there's fish in that stream, then you have to be able to do all this procedural stuff.
Well, I don't know who's in charge of the road department now. Higgins is the one I talked to before. I guess he's retired. The last time they cleaned it out, he told me they had a 5-year permit from the fisheries to keep that cleared out. I suppose we must be getting awful close to that 5 years now.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that part of that.
Yeah. Well, it's going to flood. It isn't going to take much of a piece of wood to come down that creek to plug it.
Okay,
And then what are we going to do?
I don't know the ins and outs of that to be able to give you an answer.
I brought a picture of it today because I can't seem to get anybody out there. So you can see that it's about plugged. And it's not going to heal itself till it's cleaned out on the outfall.
Okay,
So that's all there is to it. Huh?
Well, we appreciate you bringing it to our attention again. And as Commissioner Farrell stated, we are coming into the season where we will be able to do something about that at this point.
How long has that been there?
That culvert,
Yeah, out of curiosity.
it was put in about, unfortunately, my memory's not as good as it used to be. My company put that in about, I'm gonna say 45 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was a creosote culvert to start with. Now it's concrete. And it is a 4-foot deep culvert. But it's about 3 foot, little over 3 foot plugged.
How often does that have to be cleaned?
Probably, well, what has been in the past has been about every 2 years. The outfall now, what I'm talking about, where it comes out of the culvert.
Okay,
Unfortunately, we've got, I guess, quite a few slides up Fulbright area of Fish Pond Road. When it really rains, then it washes all that rock down and it gets to the culvert and that's where it stays pretty much.
Do you remember the last time we cleaned it out?
Well, it's been over 3 years ago, probably 4 years ago. I don't know if the road department keeps records, but I've been in there every year and they were gonna have somebody right out to look at it. I
Well-
think I seen one pickup one time. I know how long it takes to clean that area out. Takes about 4 hours. They scoop out from the culvert to almost the telephone pole, which I haven't measured it, but I'm gonna say it's probably 25 feet, 30 feet. And it don't take them long to do it. Or at
Well-
least it hasn't in the past.
Like I said, we do appreciate you bringing it back up and we will make sure something gets done.
Well,
about
I
it.
don't
We'll look
want it
into
in my house, and
Yeah,
I'm right at the culvert. And we've had the state out there numerous times. The state says it was put in wrong to start with. I remember us just vaguely talking to the county at the time that it was put in, that the way the creek comes down and then makes a bend, it just creates a spot for it to.
hold up.
And at the time, we owned all that property there. And the state's recommendation was that it goes straight across the road, down across the field. Since then, I've sold that to the state, but it needs to be cleaned at least every 2 or 3 years. And all they have to do is scoop it out.
A little confused. Is about 45 years old and I thought you said your company put it in?
Yeah,
The county didn't put it in or state didn't
the
put it in?
county hired us to put it in.
Hired, oh, okay, I got you.
We were the
Okay,
contractor.
all right.
We will get it. We will get her squared away for you.
Would you like to see that?
Sure, I would. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Gonna make it pretty short today. Okay, we have a public hearing at 9:30, so we'll just recess till 9:30 when we can do the public hearing, okay? Okay, we'll come out of recess because we have a public hearing and that's with Public Works.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. Today we have before you for public hearing for your consideration a franchise agreement with Ziply Fiber. This would be a 10-year non-exclusive telecommunications franchise for the right-of-ways within the county. Excuse me, this is our standard franchise, and we have been working with them to get this established.
And I know we need to do these, so we know what's in there. Do they, does it specify like you gotta be so much deep, you gotta be to the right side or left side, or I mean, how detailed do they get?
So the franchise itself does not establish where they need to go in the right of way. The franchise requires them to adhere to the Public Works Utility Accommodation Policy, which is what we have all of our franchisees, water, sewer, telecommunications, power, they all are required to work within our utility accommodation policy. So that includes they need to, especially if they're last in, they need to coordinate with the other utilities. When we do a project, all of our franchisees annually receive a copy of our 6-year plan, and we send them progress drawings throughout the process to let them know, hey, this is going to impact your facilities. We request information about their facilities so that if we can accommodate them, we leave them in place. But they are required to move when we're doing projects at no cost to the county. The only time we have to pay for relocations of a utility, and we've done this mainly with PUD, is they'll have an easement outside of the right-of-way, and we add that to our right-of-way, then we need to pay for that relocation.
Doug?
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is the request from, actually, it's the county's proposal to Ziply Fiber Northwest. It's a subsidiary of Bell Canada Enterprises, BCE. But this is really, our second Canadian franchisee. So it's, this isn't exactly novel. We have sent them a standard franchise. It's county-wide because we're not sure at this juncture the scope of their request for franchising. And it makes sense. Snohomish provided Ziply Fiber Northwest the same county-wide franchise a few years ago. That franchise, telecom franchise at least, has since been transferred to the parent company, BCE, but it tracks the same. So a standard franchise is pretty much standard what other counties do. You're sort of looking at the Telecommunications Act, Section 253, which talks about treating all telecoms equally or in a neutral manner. So we have a standard franchise, and if you've listened to any other public hearings in other counties on telecom franchising, you'll hear this standard phrase that we're putting before the board our standard franchise. It mirrors in much of its content, which again, you're looking at sort of fairness across the board. The franchises in other counties, particularly Skagit and Snohomish, which have previously franchised with Ziply Fiber Northwest. And it has basically the same or similar conditions that we've provided for with some of the more recent franchises that have come before you. Now, there's one twist in this, is that Ziply Fiber Northwest wants additional time to address some of the terms of it and talk through them. That's fine. They haven't vetted it through their council, apparently. I think we started this process a couple of months ago, but things take time, I guess. Under 3655-050, What it says that is that you have to have the public hearing, which you've initiated at this juncture. But it also says the hearing may be adjourned from time to time by order of the Board of Commissioners. And that is that you can continue the public hearing by statute. So what I propose today is if Susan has anything more to provide, she can provide that. You do have the standard franchise in front of you. I would go ahead and open it up for public comment if there is any. And then I would, based on my conversations with a Ziply Fiber Northwest representative, to adjourn the matter until April 14th or recess. They talk about adjourn in the statute. My preference is to call it really a recess and to then reconvene the hearing at 9:30 on April 14th and continue the hearing presumptively with feedback or representatives from Ziply Fiber Northwest presenting their position or their request before the board.
Okay. Thank you, Doug.
Are they aware of this hearing today?
Yes, they are. As they've been notified, and I did let them know because the hearing has been advertised, that we were going to initiate the hearing itself on the 10th of March, but I also let them know the language in the statute and says we do have the option to carry it forward if you need additional time to make your presentation. That's what I'm proposing.
So the appropriate action on this, after all comments are done today, would be to recess it or table it?
Yes.
Or what?
Yeah, recess based table. Yeah, I mean, common parlance is table it and set a express time to come back. I'm suggesting April 14th at the same time, 9:30 a.m.
I do have a quick question, and maybe for Doug. You said that it's incumbent upon them to do their due diligence with regards to the other franchises in the areas that they're going to put their stuff.
Yes,
Do-
when
do
they're doing
we-
the construction.
So what's that process look like? Do they get that information through us, or do they get it through all the other franchisees that have the?
So the
stuff
most
there?
common way is to call 411, call locates out prior to doing any, you call design locates to ask if there's anybody in the area for them to go out and market so that you know, oh, there's telephone, there's power, there's water, and then you can work out the position of your utility.
Any other questions for Susan? We'll open up the public hearing. I lost my hammer. Somebody want to hit the hammer?
Oh, Steve, you got it.
Yeah. How did I get it?
Okay, you're open for public comment if there is any on this.
I just generally looking at.
Ron,
Your microphone.
button, sorry.
There it is. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, I don't know if any of us have heard of Ziply Fiber before. So are they in any of the other counties around us or states, or are we
Yes.
I mean, history, I'm looking for,
Yeah, they are active
I'm
both
looking
in.
at all of our
Sure.
time and your time. We're investing time just to go through this. And now what is the benefit to us as a county and us as citizens? What I see is that my feeling, if I'm going to go out and do some digging and I do the notification for underground and some that come on in, here is another entity that somewhere throughout the county has a couple of spots they've done. And now we're adding that to the complexity. So I'm just trying simplicity versus complexity, benefit versus risk, et cetera.
So Ziply already exists within our right of way. And I don't know their exact locations, but I do know that When you're in the franchise system, you also get included on the 411 system so that they know that to send out your locate notifications, which is a whole process and a whole system that everybody needs to be involved in. So the locate system request requires from all of us through the state law that we have maps that they have that. So let's say somebody calls in a locate in Riderwood, for example. So they would send out to every utility that has stated that they have things in the ground. Hey, they're going to dig, it's marked on the ground, it's in the 100th block of South Second. And it is your responsibility per state law to go out and paint on the ground those lines showing where it is. So Cowlitz County, because we own and operate the water and the sewer up there, in addition to PUD, Comcast, and whoever else who has utilities up there gets sent a notification. You're then required to go out and locate and clear it in the system saying that you have located that, or that you have nothing in that area. So this, it formalizes the process. They're supposed to be doing that anyway, but this is a formalization of the process, and they do exist in a right of way. And I don't know what name they existed under before they became Ziply. Telecoms are notorious for changing names.
So the notification for UDIG for doing the notification, it goes out. It's up to these telecoms and the various entities, the county and the PUDs, et cetera, to look at that notification, say, oh, we have some lines in that area.
Yes.
So now we're counting on that Ziply is going to be around 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road when I do that locates, and it happens to be that they put some utilities into the ground and that they look there and they'll show up to mark their utilities.
Yes, and if Ziply has left, in general, they're acquired by someone else. And there is also I believe in here, Doug can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a process to transfer their franchise, and then there is a process for them to, if they're done, to remove their items from the right of way.
Okay, or in the franchise representing us in the county, if they are no longer present in able to come in, they are required to have transferred to someone, correct?
Yes.
Right, okay. There's some understanding. Okay, thank you.
So Susan, is this just you used verbiage that intrigued me. Is this to enforce them to do what they're supposed to be doing? Or is this a renewal of an old franchise that we're just updating?
Doug, is this a renewal or is this one that has?
No, this is a new franchise.
Okay,
And again, this is the oddity of the process, is that you have two areas of law, federal and state, that are overlapping. Under the Federal Telecommunications Act, the counties need to make their right-of-ways available for this type of particularly in telecommunications networking, whether it's above or underground. But the state still has the right to regulate its right-of-ways, particularly because in this state, the right-of-ways are considered secondary to the actual travel portion, and that Susan's main role here is to ensure that the travel portion takes tier one, and anything happening within the rights of way facilitate the use of the roadway. And that includes whether it's drainage or removal of obstructions or simply access by her road crew. So our regulations and the way Title 3655 was designed, even with the finding of the board, when it does grant a franchise, it has to find that the franchise itself will cause the least possible interference for use of the roadway itself. And that's why a lot of these franchises have come about with pretty standardized language. Ours isn't that original. And again, it's our standard form. So that's why it's being put before you.
So in this process, if Zipfly is in the right of way and through the call before you dig process, things aren't marked exactly accurate and they tear up somebody else's facilities that are buried in the right of way, do we have any liability?
We would, go ahead, Susan.
If they properly called for locates and it was inaccurately located or not located at all, and you hit it, it is the utility's responsibility to fix it. If it's located and you hit it, then whoever's digging is responsible for the repairs.
How close are those other utilities required to locate their stuff? Within 2 feet, within 6 feet?
I believe it's 3, but I can verify that number.
Okay.
Okay, any other public comment on this? Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We get, it sounds like we should, Doug is looking for a motion to adjourn this matter till April 14th at 9:30.
Make a motion to table this topic to April 14th,
Right now,
9:30
okay,
a.m.
do 9:30, right?
9:30.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to table this till April 14th at 9:30 a.m. in the morning. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, we have Council Long Chamber, we have a work session coming up at 10. We can go into recess till 10, okay? Okay, back from recess, heading into workshop, we have Council Longview Chamber with us today, so thanks for coming by.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm appreciative to be here, and I'm
Okay.
excited to talk about tourism and the visitor center and the chamber and Squatch and all of it. So thank you, commissioners, for inviting me.
Okay,
This presentation is about 25 to 30 minutes long. Make sure you interrupt me if you have any questions. I prefer that than waiting until the end because that's where we're at in the presentation. So don't feel awkward about doing that. I appreciate it. So today's topics: tourism, why it matters, the visitor center, what role does it play, the Chamber of Commerce and where do we fit in, and then Squatch Fest, what it's really all about. These are all part of the same system that drives economic activity in the county. So tourism, why it matters. Tourism develops economic growth. It's the developer. It doesn't just bring visitors, it creates demand, and demand brings with it new business, new infrastructure, increased growth. And it's the foundation for long-term economic development, increased revenue, and revenue brings opportunity. It becomes the foundation for long-term economic development. So don't be blind to what it is we already have. One of the things I've noticed since I've been in Cowlitz County is we're not loud and proud, and we should be loud and proud. We have some really great things here that some already attract visitors, and others are messaging that people don't even realize that we have. So capturing more volume from the interest we already have is the key to success, in my opinion. So again, loud and proud. We have a lot going for us, not only our location conveniently located between Portland and Seattle, but also our outdoor lifestyle. So everybody in this room should know this slide. There's nothing earth-shattering here. We're the nation's only national volcanic monument. It was originally developed as a scientific and an educational landscape. We have world-renowned outdoor activities, camping, hiking, kayaking, and some of the world's best waterways and fisheries. As a girl who spent all of her career until the chamber traveling the US, when people ask where you're from and you say, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, they're like, oh, where? And I would always say halfway between Portland and Seattle on the Oregon side, on the across the Columbia River. And they're like, oh, the Columbia River, great salmon. You're like, yeah, which was always followed by, what's the proximity to Cowlitz? So if you're an outdoors person and you're on the East Coast, you know about the Columbia River and the Cowlitz River. But I think we take that for granted because it's right here in our back door and we don't realize how cool that really is. We also have huge amount of community events for a community this size. As you guys know, everything from Go Forth to Squirrel to Squatch, the Highland Games. Interestingly, Big Smoke and Little Klamath getting a lot of attention right now. It is on the barbecue circuit for the nation and has brought a lot of attention to the area, which is great. Of course, our convenience and affordability. I haven't said anything about affordability yet, but it's really one of those anchor things as prices continue to increase north and south of us. That puts us in a unique position. Of course, access. People come into the visitor center and say, hey, we have an extra day. What do we want to do? We always recommend, have you been out to the coast yet? And again, we forget because it's all right here in our backyard. And of course, the small town charm. So tourism, did you know 2.5 million people visit Mount St. Helens yearly when Johnston Ridge is opened? 30 to 70,000 vehicles pass through Cowlitz County on I-5 daily. Any of us who drive that are familiar with that. Sometimes it feels like way more than that. 60 to 70% of rural tourism are day travelers. This is a huge opportunity for us, huge. Overnight visitors typically spend 2 to 3 times more than day visitors, which we would expect. And event tourism brings in 10 to 20,000 visitors a year. And event tourism is everything from what happens at the event center to sports marketing to what happens at LCC, anything that isn't part of the normal day-to-day operations. So tourism, loud and proud. So focus on what we have and convert day travelers to overnight travelers. Leverage Mount St. Helens, leverage outdoor lifestyle, support local events and festivals, and then countywide sports marketing is where I think tourism needs to go.
Tourism, do you have a number of 10, 20,000? How many of them are overnight versus day?
Well, statistically, 60% are day travelers. So if you apply that to that same 20,000, you're looking at minimal overnight stays. So tourism, what could the plan be? A branding plan with visual displays linking county together, normally done through logoing, color schemes, font, visual appearance, signage, all the things have a plan, a 1 to 3 year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and a 15-year plan. It's worth noting that because we're kind of behind the 8 ball, we can't have a 5-year plan. We need a 4-year plan. We need to capitalize on the 50th anniversary of Mount St. Helens, which is now 4 years away and not 5 years. So we're already a year behind. And from my perspective, the plan is great, but how are we going to communicate that? So a communication plan that's loud and proud, that reaches people outside of Cowlitz County, and lead with Mount St. Helens. Again, we have this beautiful Majesty Mountain right in our backyard. It's right here. It's what draws people here originally, but then highlight lifestyle, livability, and affordability, which are all the secondaries, which is what gets people to spend the night. Because Mount St. Helens is really a day trip. It's everything else after that that gets them to spend the night. So what's the county's role? The county's role, from my opinion, you're the largest recipient of LTAC dollars. Therefore, you have to handle the planning. The developing the plan and how that money is going to be spent falls on the county, as well as how that's going to be communicated. It's also important to note that put the right people in the role to execute the plan. I'm not speaking directly about Cowlitz County tourism or the people at Cowlitz County tourism. I'm speaking about going outside and picking people that are experts in that lane of travel, if it's comms, if it's branding, whatever that looks like. But I think that the county could get a lot of bang for the buck by going and finding people that have expertise in those small lanes of travel to actually get to an execution. And then develop, support local initiatives that support the plan and develop outside partnerships that support the plan. And those outside partnerships could be something like partnering with Travel Portland or Visit Seattle and getting those visitors that are already hitting those metro areas as information to, oh, here's a good, halfway point stop. But that happens where the people start, which are in those other larger metropolitan surrounding areas. So the chamber's role, the chamber could develop the branding. I mean, that's my background. I could develop the branding for you guys if you wanted me to do that. I also could develop a communications plan if you needed help with a communications plan. Could Cowlitz County Tourism be an arm of the chamber? I don't know. Could it? It makes sense from my perspective. So what about the visitor center? Which from my perspective is one of the most important and powerful tools in our tourism system. The visitor center helps convert pass-through traffic into economic development. We do that by providing maps, directions, recommendations. We encourage people to stop, explore, dine, shop, and stay. We influence spending decisions. We direct visitors to local businesses. We direct visitors to local attractions. We answer questions about local activities. We provide data insight. We track the visitors that come into the visitor center. We track frequently asked questions and seasonal trends. We strengthen destination branding. We are the first impression, the visitor center is. We reinforce community friendliness, and we act as a local knowledge source.
Bonnie, how many people come into the visitor center a month?
I will answer that on this slide. We produce a visitor's guide highlighting the region. We have given out just right at 10,000 visitors guides in the last 18 months. Most of those go out through people that come in, but we also supply those to local hotels. We produce a local map. We've given out 15,000 of the local maps in the same 18-month period. We get 6,000 to 12,000 unique visitors a year at the visitor center. That number has dropped since the closing of Johnston Ridge. And we'd like to believe that when the road gets opened, that people will be there. The most asked question, best viewing spot for Mount St. Helens. Or I heard Mount St. Helens is closed. Is there another place where I can go see it? We, every day at the visitor center, have somebody come in mentioning that Mount St. Helens is closed. And we say, oh, no, it's not closed. We give them a map. You can get all the way up to cold water. I mean, we do the whole thing. And they're like, oh, we were told it was closed. So we're readdressing that every time somebody comes in. And then I thought the second most asked question in here would be fun. May I use your restroom? That happens a lot. So when I started at the chamber, I had a list of questions. It's a new industry for me. And though I've lived in Rainier for 10 years, I wasn't involved in Cowlitz County. So this list of questions are things that I have asked myself since I've started at the chamber. And they're all ones that are still left unanswered, but I thought I would include them in here. Why is it the Kelso Longview Visitor Center and not the Cowlitz County Visitor Center? Why isn't Cowlitz County Tourism more financially vested in the Visitor Center? Why hasn't anyone from Cowlitz County Tourism been more engaged with and in the Visitor Center? Cowlitz County Tourism has been in the Visitor Center once in the 2 years I've been there. What synergies could Cowlitz County Tourism have if there was alignment and partnership with the chamber? What kind of energy and savings could these synergies bring to Cowlitz County? So Visitor Center, did you know the Kelso Longview Visitor Center is one of the only, is right now the only visitor center open regular hours along the I-5 corridor. Even when you go all the way down to Vancouver, their visitor center is the Fort Vancouver Visitor Center. It's about a mile off the road at the fort, but it's closed through the winter months. Kelso's awards us a $100,000 LTAC grant for the visitor center. We're in contract with them to run it. That grant is in jeopardy. They've already let me know that 2027 is going to be a problem. In comparison, Cowlitz County Tourism provides a $20,000 a year LTAC grant for the visitor center. Annual operations run 120 to 160 a year, depending on what we do with staffing. The chamber makes up whatever the shortfall is. Last year, we ran at about 135 on 120,000 collected in LTAC dollars, and we made up the difference. We closed on Sundays for January and February, and I think we'll be back down in that 120 range. Again, there's a lot of contributing factors, the cost of security, the cost of wages, utilities, all of that plays into that. So I'm hoping we can get that down to that 120. We also just rehabbed the visitor center. We have new displays, fresh paint, new carpet, and we've repaired the exterior lighting. Most of this was done through part of the 100,000 from Kelso, but and a little bit of help for some displays through the city of Longview. But the painting and the carpet were bartered with existing members. The painting and the new displays I did on my personal time. I donated my time back to the chamber. I painted the entire chamber on weekends and nights. And then the exterior lighting we did as a trade with a current chamber member, and he donated his time, and we just had to pay for the equipment that was needed. So the chamber, where do we fit in? We're the face, we're the voice, we're the engine, and we're really the center of the community. So we're the information center for visitors. We're the voice of local businesses in Cowlitz County. We develop events that bring people to the community. We're the conduit between local municipalities and business. We're the conduit between schools and industry. We're the voice of local business at the state legislative level, and we're the information center for local businesses. So we answer all of these types of questions daily. So a little history on the chamber. The Longview Chamber started in 1923. The Kelso Chamber started in 1924. When I started at the chamber, I was surprised at how old they were. Both chambers originally were established to support expanding industries, timber, manufacturing, and port development. In 1999, the Kelso and Longview chambers merged. It's fun to note that apparently there was a big discussion on what the name was going to be, and it was a rock, paper, scissors. We're going to go alphabetically, which is why it's the Kelso Longview Chamber. When they originally merged, the office was in Longview, and then moved out to the visitor center in Kelso years after that. So the original merger was based on stronger regional advocacy, expanded business support services, and increased tourism promotion. In the 2010s, destination marketing growth was the initiative. Mount St. Helens tourism, regional events, and visitor center operations. Interestingly, when I was cleaning out the chamber office, I found two studies done by the county on tourism in 2008 and 2013. As far as I know, these were never implemented. So, I mean, I'd be more than happy to let you guys borrow these so you can go through them and compare them to the work that's going on now with the RFP that's being done by Fine Consulting to see if it's the same information you've already had. But I did find these, so that was interesting. In the 2020s, the focus was a regional connector with business advocacy, workforce and education partnerships. The chamber's actively involved with our local school systems and their CTE programs. Again, tourism development is still in the mix here. Regional collaboration with surrounding chambers, community events, and economic promotion. Currently, the chamber has, I think our number today is 417 members, current members, in a county with a population of 116,000. We always get compared to Vancouver. I work a lot with Vancouver. We have a great relationship, but to put that in comparison, Vancouver has 1,000 members with a county population of just over 500,000. When you look at it as a percentage, the chamber has a lot of engagement in our community. So Squatch Fest meets Galactic Fest, what it's really all about. Whoops, sorry, hit the mic. So Squatch Fest isn't just a fun event, it's an economic driver. So in 2026, so this year our Squatch happened the last weekend in January, was the 9th year. until 2026. It had just been Squatch Fest related. In 2024, the chamber was going to host Galactic Fest in August of 24. It was decided not to move forward with Galactic Fest based on funding and expense concerns. In 2026, it was decided to add Galactic Fest to Squatch Fest. The hope was to grow the audience, get new people engaged with Cowlitz County, and reduce expenses doing the events together. So it's a challenging time in the events and festival season. Coachella, which is a large music event that happens in Southern California. Some would say the largest music event in the country. It was down 14 to 17%, depending on what statistics you read. The Oregon Jamboree, which was Oregon's largest outdoor festival that happened in Sweet Home, is no longer taking place. Even the Portland Rose Festival is combining their Grand Floral Parade and the Starlight Parade for 2026. Of course, we've all heard about the gorgeous Amphitheater Watershed Musical Festival, which is their largest event, isn't happening for 2026, all citing the same concerns: rising costs, facility fees rising faster than ticket prices, insurance costs, and of course, staffing is ongoing concern. So why do Squatch Fest and Galactic Fest? It was originally decided to do Squatch Fest in January to help increase local business during the slowest time of the year, to give people a reason to visit Cowlitz County, to lean into local folklore, to highlight the attributes of our community, bring affordable fun to local Cowlitz County residents, and generate revenue for the chamber that goes back into local economy. So let's look at Squatch Fest for Squatch Meets Galactic for 2026. 32% of our advanced ticket sales were from Cowlitz or Columbia County. 16% were within 45 miles. 38% were outside of 45 miles. And 14% were outside of Oregon and Washington. That's 52% of our pre-ticket sales were from outside the area. This shows that the event brings in new visitors into the county, which was its original purpose. So the financial picture for Squatch Fest, 2026 versus 2025. It's important to note that we had no price increase. So the price increase, the pricing to get in, vendor booth, everything stayed the same for 2025 to 2026, which makes this comparison, apples to apples. So sponsorship was up 17% over prior year. Vendor booth sales were up 8% over prior year. Ticket sales were down 15% over prior year. LTAC dollars received from Cowlitz County were down 40% over prior year. Event center room rental went up 20% over prior year. I put an example in here, the Lewitt room, which is the carpeted room at the event center, was $300 or $630 per day after applied discount in 2026. It's also important to note that our discount year over year stayed the same. So there wasn't a change in the discounted amount. That same room in 2025, same setup, same everything, same weekend, everything was $525 per day after our applied discount. It's also important to note that there were some charges from the event center that didn't see an increase year over year, but all of the substantial ones did. So what that resulted in was an overall expense reduction of 7%. I worked really hard, went outside to vendors. I removed services that normally the event center would have performed and went to outside providers to try and save money, which is why I was able to reduce our overall expenses by 7%. But with the added increase at the for the rental of the space plus the downward trend in gate, we were down an estimated revenue by 10%. We're just now finishing the balancing for Squatch, but we're going to be down 10%. We're there. So what's next for Squatch Meets Galactic? Next year's the 2027, is the 10th anniversary. We're committed to that, but then it's going to be a tough decision on what happens next. Yeah, we're in a tough space with Squatch Fest. So a BHAG. In the private industry, we develop these things called BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. And they're this goal that kind of sits out sits out there and it may be attainable, it may not be attainable, but every decision we make, we keep this BHAG in play. You know, is this decision going to get us closer to this BHAG? So when I started at the chamber and I started thinking about BHAGs and what the chamber could be, this is kind of my hit list. Could we become the regional county chamber? I mean, from my perspective, it makes sense. The Kelso Longview Chamber is the only chamber with paid staff, minus Woodland that has one paid executive director, but the rest of them are all volunteer. We have all the infrastructure in play. Would it make sense to be their back room and allow them to work as like committees and continue to do what it is they do in the community, but take all of that stress of the back office off of them? Again, we have a CRM, we have an email program, we have all of the things that those smaller chambers are struggling with. The other side of it is what role should we play in economic development? The chamber currently, though I sit on economic development's board, isn't really actively involved in what is happening from an economic development standpoint in the in Cowlitz County. Should we be more involved in that? Could we be more involved in that? Again, all questions, right? And what would it look like if Cowlitz County Tourism was part of the chamber? Could that happen? These are all big conversations that need to happen. And, you know, really indicative of how could the chamber and the county work closer together. So what can Cowlitz County do for the chamber? A seat at the tourism strategy table, financial support of Squatch Fest that helps drive tourism, increased operational support for the visitor center, county advocacy for the chamber with local municipalities. I think if the county was out, you know, speaking the value of the chamber, I don't get a lot of resistance from the municipality, but they don't hear it from you either. Public supported the visitor center as the gateway to county tourism, and a partnership on countywide tourism marketing that includes alignment with economic development initiatives to support and attract local business. That's really the end game, right? The end game is to grow the economy, which again, creates opportunities for all of us. Be loud, be proud, and tell the Cowlitz County story. So what does the chamber do for Cowlitz County? We convert visitor traffic into local spending. We support tourism marketing, organize regional partnerships, and promote local businesses and events. We serve as the engine that drives tourism. You know, the county has the assets, and the chamber has the platform. We can leverage tourism spending to optimize return. We can support local business. We can build a stronger regional identity, and we can turn pass-through traffic into economic opportunity, which is probably the one we need to lead with. So I added these slides on Friday after I was done. Late Friday afternoon, I received a document from Cowlitz County Tourism talking about their tourism workshop orientation package, and Cowlitz County Tourism thought it would be value for me to see that before this presentation. It was great to see. I appreciate that they shared that with me. So I took this presentation and the presentation that they sent me, I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, and compared the documents. So the plan comparison. The first document is the tourism work group orientation package that was shared on Friday. The purpose of the document is to establish a planning framework. It focuses on organizing stakeholders, identifying tourism assets, and setting long-term strategic direction for tourism in the county. The work is important. Tourism absolutely needs a clear strategy and a collaboration across partners. The second document is a presentation you just got done hearing. That presentation looks at tourism from a different but equally important perspective. Rather than focusing primarily on planning, it focuses on implementation, how tourism actually turns into economic activity for businesses and communities. It highlights things like Mount St. Helens as the anchor attraction, the massive travelers traffic already passing through on I-5, the role of local business in delivering the visitors experience. We can't emphasize that enough. It's our local businesses that deliver the experience regardless of what the plan is. And the importance of the Kelso Longview Visitor Center as the gateway where visitors make real decisions about where to stop, eat, shop, and stay. It's worth mentioning that there was a lot of shared ground. I mean, we all agree St. Helens should be the anchor, the traffic, the opportunity with the traffic, and the collaboration matters. I think the big difference is that Cowlitz County Tourism is the plan holder, where the chamber is the plan implementer. So what does the difference mean? This leads to a key takeaway from comparing these two approaches. Tourism strategies by themselves do not create economic impact. Economic impacts happens when visitors connect with businesses, events, and local experiences. This is where the Kelso Longview Chamber plays an important role. The chamber already operates at the intersection of tourism and local economy through several key factors. First, the visitor center. The chamber operates the primary visitor center for the county. This is where travelers stop, ask questions, and decide where to go next. It's probably worth noting here, I've heard these weird rumors that the county is trying to figure out how to reopen up the Castle Rock Visitor Center and is interested in turning that into the Mount St. Helens, an additional Mount St. Helens spot. I question why. We're already there, we're already funded, we're already staffed to spend resources trying to open up a visitor center that hasn't had regular hours since I've been at the chamber. Seems like wasted effort, but that again is my opinion. Second, business connectivity. The chamber works directly with restaurants, hotels, retailers, event organizers, and recreation providers, the businesses that actually deliver the visitor experience. Third, community promotion and events. Through partnerships and events like Sasquatch, Go Forth, all of them, the chamber actively brings visitors into the county and supports local economy activity. So when we look at these two documents together, the conclusion becomes clear. Tourism planning is essential, but tourism only becomes economic growth when there is operational partnership connecting visitors to the community. The chamber is already performing many of those functions today. Strengthening the chamber's role in tourism planning can help ensure the strategies we develop actually translate into real economic benefit for Cowlitz County. So what could that look like? Year one, launch Visit Cowlitz County. I know based on the information that I received on Friday that the county is looking at using Discover Cowlitz County as their tag. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but Clama's already using Discover Clama. And I think what it does is it gives a lot of validity to Discover Clama, but it dilutes Visit Cowlitz County. And so I voiced concern about using Discover Cowlitz County. Again, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's heightens Clama and maybe not the rest of the municipalities. A tourism website and visitors guide. Again, we're already producing a visitors guide. In years past, the county had LTAC dollars that they helped support that. That went away before I started. I think it's been gone for 3 or 4 years now, the support of the visitors guide. We do that ourselves now. Aligned cities, the city of Longview, city of Kelso, Castle Rock, and Clama all have to be a part of it. And then a regional marketing plan. I have strong feelings that part of the tourism, the way to really get tourism going is to reach out to our friends at Travel Portland and Visit Seattle and come up with a partnership that gives them the materials that they need to speak of. Hey, here's a really nice overnight trip, and get to the large metropolitan areas where the visitors are originating from. Year two, capture I-5 travelers, signage, create weekend getaway itineraries across the county. Again, we're already getting day visitors. We need to convert them. And the way to convert them is give them something to do after they see Mount St. Helens. Year three, expand recreation, put together hiking maps, river recreation, cycling routes, tie local event marketing to Visit Cowlitz via calendar and support marketing, and then extensive media promotion, expanding outside of the Pacific Northwest. And then this would normally be year 5, but for us, it's year 4 because we have this huge opportunity with the 50th anniversary of Mount St. Helens. We're going to get national and international attention on that. I'd be curious to know what Washington Tourism, State of Washington Tourism's doing for the 50th. I haven't heard that yet, but we have a huge opportunity here. And if we don't figure out what we're going to do with tourism before this, we're going to not be able to capture our full benefits from this 50th anniversary. So we end with loud and proud. And I just, yeah. Again, as somebody who's not from here, I think we forget how cool and what it is we have to offer, and we have an opportunity to do that. So Cowlitz County has incredible assets, global attraction, and an ideal location, strong outdoor recreation, events, and community pride, a chamber that can help connect the pieces. The opportunity is now to be loud and proud about our community, our work together to capture the opportunity already passing through. So thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Anybody have any questions, concerns, comments? Oh, and don't worry, I put together an executive summary, so you guys will have all of that in writing,
Well,
in a summed up version.
it's just a lot to
Yeah.
unpack. When did chambers have been around for a long time? Obviously, this one's been here since 1923. And basically, when they started, it was pretty much, could you describe it? It was kind of a business networking support.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally started to support industry. It has
to
morphed
support
into.
industry and legislation around that.
Yep.
And over time, it's morphed into other things.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the core is still the same, right? Our core is to grow local business and to support local business. What's changed, I think, is the avenues to do that. And one of those avenues is tourism. The fact is that most economic development starts with tourism. People come to an area, they look around the area, they're like, oh, I like it here. Look, it supports outdoor, my lifestyle choices, and then everything else happens after that. If Lindsay was sitting here talking about economic development, she would tell you that one of the things that's looked at for industry looking here is quality of life. And that whole outdoor lifestyle and what it is we have to offer is part of that, but that's also what starts tourism. And therefore growth, right? I mean, it's all about revenue growth. If we could all come up with, a lot more, if we could come up with manageable growth, it is the best thing for the community. No growth is backwards. You either move forward or you're going backwards. And so from my perspective, tourism is just another hook to get people interested in the area.
The county does have a visitor center. It's up by Silver Lake. I don't know about the talk on something in Castle Rock. That's new information to me, but we've been running that Silver Lake Visitor Center for quite a few years.
Yeah, so I was a little disappointed to see the change to paid admission into that visitor center. It's now classified as a museum. You can get into the gift shop, but you actually can't get into the visitor center without paying. So I would, though, yes, the county is running that. It doesn't really qualify as a visitor center because it doesn't have access unless you've paid to get in there. So now the county's visitor center is free. You can get into the building and get to the visitor center or get to the gift shop, but not actually into the exhibits and the rest of it. So.
I don't know where to go with some of this because I feel like when I think, of course, I've been around a lot longer than others. When I think of chambers, I think of business networking and legislative stuff, and we're morphing it into other areas. And so I just kind of have to wonder out loud, are we moving away from our niche? I don't know that. It's just a question I posed myself. And I sit on this group that was formed, and it has all the cities involved, Longview, Kelso, Castle Rock, Kalama, Woodland, has Longview Port, Kalama Port. And they are using the Fine Group to move some of that because the Fine Group has shown some great results down in Kalama. And I know part of the talk, and you can maybe address some of this, is moving away from the paper products. We don't have the number of people that come through and want the brochures as much as anymore. Kalama uses a lot of, what do they call it, geomapping or whatever they call it. And that seems to be the growing part of it is people plug in Cowlitz County, where do I go? They just look at their phone and, oh, I'll head up to Luluskas, or I'll do this or do that. So maybe you could address that a little bit, because that's some of the stuff I'm hearing from.
Yeah, I would love
this
to
group.
address that.
Yeah.
So in 35 years of marketing and sales, the biggest takeaway is it's not one single avenue, it's all avenues. So you can't go 100% digital without some paper backup. You can't go 100% paper without digital backup. And the real key is to offer options to everybody who's interested. So I know in my experience at the chamber that we get two groups of people. We get retired people and we get young families traveling. That's really the most of it. There's, of course, in between, but that's the bulk of it. So the retired people that are traveling are looking for a combination of digital assets as well as walk away. They want the passenger to be able to read while the driver's driving, and there's a lot of that. So my advice, if this was Bonnie's world and I was creating a marketing plan for this, it would be highly digital with some paper support. I just don't think you can walk away from paper completely. Now, does it need to be reduced? Absolutely. Do we need to create the amount of stuff we've created in the past? No. There's huge advantages to digital, not only the geofencing side of it, but the ability to change on the fly. Once you print, you're done until you reprint, but digital, you can change on the fly, which is why, in my opinion, it has to be a combination of both.
Was the chamber asked to be part of this?
No, I called and actually asked, flat out asked to be included in the conversation, and was politely declined. And then the email I got from Cowlitz County Chamber Tourism on Friday, the point of that was to show where the chamber fits in to the process, which is as a collaborator at the very end. I think what's going to happen is Cowlitz County Tourism is going to come up with a plan and then ask the chamber to help speak of that plan, message that out into the community. We are not actively involved in that conversation. And again, that's one of my questions. I was like, again, we were in the only visitor center that's open regular hours. All of this planning's happened without any input on what's happening at the visitor center and what people are asking for. Or, I mean, at the very least, Find Consulting should have contacted us and said, hey, you've got the visitor center. Tell us about your visitors. What brings them there? We're also a geocache location. So a lot of people come in because of the geocache location. But they don't know that because nobody's asked.
Did it become a visitor center when the office moved from Longview over there? Just out of curiosity.
Me personally?
No, I know the visitor center there, but the office used to sit over by the post office in Longview.
Yeah, so my understanding is the visitor center that was there prior was in a trailer. And it was a partnership between the chamber, the city of Kelso, and the state of Washington, because we sit on state of Washington property.
Yeah.
And that's when that building was erected, was based on Longview was going to, the Longview office was, that building was sold and they were looking for a new home. Kelso wanted to create an actual visitor center building and get out of the trailer. And it all kind of came together. It was a partnership at the time between the chamber and the city of Kelso. There was joint financial involvement in the building that since has been paid back, and the building belongs to the city of Kelso on the state of Washington property. And the chamber pays rent for the chamber space and has an operating agreement on the visitor center portion. But Kelso's made it clear that they're backing away from the visitor center funding in 2027. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Without LTAC funding for the visitor center, there won't be one. The chamber can't afford to run that. It's opened 60 hours a week at peak season. And we can't afford that without some LTAC dollars to offset that.
So a group came together and put that building as a visitor center and then it offered office space to the chamber.
Yeah, my understanding is that was actually a
fairly close?
collaborative deal that the chamber and the city came together to put the building in and came up with a financial agreement that worked for both to make that happen. Now, we rent the 4 offices in there. We pay them $1,100 a month in rent, plus all of the, it's a triple net lease, plus all of the expenses associated with the building.
Bonnie, there was and correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was an underlying theme to your presentation, and that is that I sense that the feeling is that there's not much collaboration between the county and the visitor center and the chamber with regards to tourism.
Yeah, I mean, and from my perspective, I think that the county needs to own the plan, but the county doesn't have the mechanism to implement. And I think that's what we see here. I think we see county plan with no implementation, which is why when I read these, there's a lot of similarities to what's being produced now, that it's not going to be about the plan, it's going to be about the implementation. So what's that going to look like? And how's the county going to implement? And I'm sure you're $100,000 into your fine consulting deal. How are you going to implement that? I don't know how the county doesn't have the mechanism to do that, at least from my perspective. And again, this is all new to me, so maybe there's a mechanism there that I'm unfamiliar with, but history shows that maybe the mechanism for implementation isn't in play. But I think that's the chamber's position. I think the chamber's position is to implement. I don't think the county has, and even if the county has the ability to do that, why spend your money there? We're already here. We're already doing that work. So it seems like it just seems like a weird silos. It seems like weird silos to me. But again, it's new to me. I spend a lot of my day going, I don't understand. This is one of those ones that's a head scratcher for me. I don't understand.
Well, you brought up something that I haven't heard anybody bring up, and we talk about it frequently, is the 50th anniversary of the eruption. And how are we going to take advantage of that from a tourism standpoint?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have heard anything. I haven't heard anything about that, and I didn't even think about it, looking at it from a different angle and perspective with all the eruption stuff that we're still dealing with in the rivers and things. So you brought up some valid points that I think.
Yeah, and I'm scared. We're 4 years away from that 50th anniversary. I know how much time it takes to put together a cohesive branding and communications plan, and we are like behind the 8 ball. You can't develop a program, launch a program, communicate a program, and get results instantaneously. It just doesn't happen. And we are going to get national and international attention. We did it at the 25. We're definitely going to get it at the 50. I haven't heard, you guys maybe, Commissioner Dahl, you may be more involved in what the state tourism plan is for St. Helens, but we should be hooked into that. It's a big deal. And again, we forget about it because it's right here, but it's so cool. People ask me all the time when I traveled. I have my screensaver on my phone's a picture of Mount St. Helens because I'd say, look, and they're like, really? Wow. Yeah, that's from my deck. But we forget about it because it's right here.
Well, in answer to a question or just a little more information, I know this group has an implementation plan because I've seen them divide it up. I sit on there more as a conduit to the county commissioners for that. And it's not all, the county's coordinating it, but it's not all run by the county. There's, people from all the different cities that are part of that. So.
But again, I would question if a municipality or public government can implement. That's a question for me. That's not my experience. You all are great at coming up with strategy and design and all of that, but when it actually comes to moving it, I'm not sure that those are the right groups. I mean, no city's running a visitor center. I'm at the front lines. I'm the one dealing with as we would say in the auto parts business, the customer across the counter. I'm the one dealing with the customer across the counter. So, but again, that's my opinion from my seat, and we all have our own lane of travel. But I do think that there's something to be said for the synergies and that it needs to be more inclusive. And the silo work that's going on. Are you guys familiar that COG's working on a tourism plan too? That was part of their SEDS deal.
But who is?
COG, the Cowlitz-Waukegan Council of Governments.
Hmm.
Yeah, they asked for a seat at that strategy meeting too, based on their SEDS reports. And they were denied also. But again, it's that silo work. It's just, I don't get it. It's tough for me. A girl from private industry, we can't afford silos. Just doesn't happen.
Interesting take. When I listen to the cities and stuff, they don't see it that way, but that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard from any of the cities. I mean, I have a good working relationship with both Longview and Kelso. Tourism never comes up in those conversations. And the only conversation that's coming from Kelso is their financial involvement in the visitor center and how they see it as a regional visitor center and don't understand why the county and other municipalities aren't more involved in it, which is why my funding's in jeopardy for 2027. Their marching orders for me was you need to get in front of those other municipalities and get more support because we're not going to be the only ones that support it moving forward. On a side note, have figured out how to fund to award themselves LTAC dollars. So that's part of it. They're taking some of the pressure off their general fund by awarding LTAC dollars back to themselves instead of awarding to outside entities.
You said you have 417 members. Do you know what we had in the past?
The highest membership that I can find at the chamber since we've been running a CRM is right around 500. Yeah, right. And in fact, like 510, we're at like 417, I think, as of yesterday. So, and we're growing. I mean, the chambers had a lot of change over the last couple of years. We went to this kind of inclusive environment and have opened up the chamber to members and non-members. Everything that we do today has a member and non-member price and benefit structure to it. We kind of decided that if the chamber's goal was to help move economic development, that being exclusive wasn't the answer. And so we have a lot of small business owners that may not believe the chamber membership has value, but here's an event that's going to be in their area and here's a $200 sponsorship and that makes sense to them. And so we allow that today.
How much does it cost to put on Squatch Fest?
55,000.
And do we cover that cost or do we fall short?
Who's we?
You guys, you put it
Does
on.
the chamber cover
Yeah.
that cost?
Yeah.
Yes, the chamber covers that cost. The chamber would be at a negative if it wasn't for LTAC dollars. We got $6,000 from the county. We got 5,000 from Kelso for Squatch Fest, and then Longview. Longview had given us 5,000 for Squatch Fest and then 5,000 for Galactic. And because they run on a 2-year budget cycle, they allowed me to take the 5,000 for Galactic and roll it into this year's combined. So they gave me 5,000 for Squatch and 5,000 for Galactic. So we got 16,000 in LTAC dollars, and we're going to we're still balancing it, but we're going to be about 20,000 is what the net proceeds to the chamber is going to be. Which again, that doesn't include wage expense. Wage expense, we figure we're about 2,500 hours into Squatch Fest from a labor standpoint. So if you add a labor in there, we're absolutely backwards, no question about it. Even if you take wages at minimum, what do they call that? Minimum wage, we're still backwards. So That's why Squatch is kind of in this weird intersection on what do we want to do? From my standpoint, the chamber needs to be north of 40,000 in net proceeds to really start talking about does it warrant the amount of time and energy that we put into it? It's a conversation that's happening currently on my board. Again, we're committed to 2027. I think the 10th year gives us the opportunity to, again, be loud and proud. But I'm budgeting that at zero net revenue. I think I have to, based on what's happening with LTAC funding, which is sad, you guys. I mean, 53% of our attendance comes from outside of the area. When I sat down with Kelso awarded us no LTAC funds for Squatch Fest. The conversation there was, it doesn't have any value to us. Okay, really? That's the conversation we want to have? It has no value. Okay.
Well, I look at it as, my family owned grocery stores. And we would have lost leaders, right? We knew we were going to lose money on certain things just to get people into the store, and we would
Yep.
place those things at the back of the store because they had to walk through
course.
all of our sales. So hopefully they have things in their cart before they get to that lost leader. So am I understanding you to say that Squatch Fest, let's just call it a lost leader overall, right? There's no products off to the side that people are picking up on their way into Squatch Fest or on their way out. that
Yeah, of
people are seeing
course.
a net value to.
Yeah, so when you look at the vendor side of it and you say, I sent out a survey to we had 73 or 74 vendors represented there, and we send out a post survey. Did the event have value to you? And did you cover your expenses? The majority of the answers were yes. And again, that's part of the reason why Squatch Fest started, was to bring business into Cowlitz County at the worst time of the year, that post Christmas, before spring, every industry struggles in the Northwest in that end of January, February. In the auto parts business, February is the worst month, unless we have an early spring. But January and February are tough. And, it's before tax return dollars, all of that things that make spending low during those months. And that's the reason why it was started. So when you look at it from that side, that's my argument. That's my argument for why Squatch Fest has value, is it's bringing dollars into the community and supporting the LTAC and heads and beds, which is what LTAC is supposed to be. And it's supporting that. 53% of our pre-ticket sales were from outside of the area. 14 of those % were from outside of Oregon and Washington. 14%. That's a number. That's a meaningful number. So yes, Squatch Fest was never meant to be a huge revenue generator for the chamber. It's, if the chamber can figure out how to break even and make a little bit of money that will, fund whatever's next to bring stuff into the area, then that's great. That's all it needs to be. But when we add wages into that thing, we are like backwards in a scary way. Would never be allowed in private industry. we would never allow that. And this isn't my money. This is membership money, which even makes it an even stranger deal. In private industry, when you go into something like a loss leader, you go into it knowing that's the cost of tea in China. It's like in auto parts, it's an oil change, right? And you just go into it knowing I'm going to lose money on that, but it's your money to lose. This isn't my money. This is membership and LTAC dollars.
A lot of stuff to digest, and I guess I'm struggling with, and it's probably because it's involved in chambers, in my working career. I remember legislative days at the Hill. You go up with the chamber and stuff, and I'm struggling with the role that I know it as versus the role it's morphing into, and so
It's the same role. So in your day, in the early days of chamber life, it was all about business networking and building business. So the outcome was still the same. The idea was to grow business. Today, the avenue that we do that looks a little different, but the end goal is the same, to grow the local economy.
And things that were done back in the day were supported by chamber members through the banks I work through would pay some money to do these events or do that or not. And now you're competing in an arena where a lot of other people compete in, and it just, and I'm trying to square with myself, and I don't know the answer to this, is because I think these chambers have a purpose, but I'm worried that you're getting out of your niche. And
Well, I would invite you to go look at other chambers in the area outside of Cowlitz County. Go look at Portland Metro Chamber, go look up at Seattle. They're all actively involved in the tourism space, and they're actively involved in the tourism space because we have learned that tourism is an economic developer that will help local economy, which is the space the chambers fit in. We've also learned that private industry as well as public side at times needs help developing events. And even if you look here in the community, all of the major events are either done by the chamber or service organizations. They're not done by outside organizations. They're done by nonprofits. And the reason they're done by nonprofits is because when you look at the Rotary events or the Lions events, those are to generate revenue for them that goes back into the community. If you look at the ones done by the chamber, it's to develop economic development. It's to bring people in to spend money to support our membership.
you know, when Klamath Port started putting together all that stuff that they've done down there, they contracted with the Fine Group to how to market themselves and do that type of stuff. So why didn't they come to the chamber?
So interestingly, how about a little history on Portland Metro Chamber? So my daughter works for Portland Metro Chamber, just FYI, clear. So Portland Metro Chamber right now handles an enhanced service district in downtown Portland of 250-ish blocks. They handle the safety, the cleaning, and all public spaces in that designated area for activation. The reason they do that is to support economic development. The city of Portland pays the Portland Metro Chamber to do that because the city has decided that if they don't figure out how to connect better with business, that business is leaving, which is happening in Portland. The space in the open office space in downtown Portland right now is 53%. And it's 53% because the city ruined it. But the city went to the chamber to get the chamber to fix it. And so the chamber is Portland Metro Chamber is actively involved with Travel Portland, which has an office next door to theirs. And Portland Metro Chamber handles the activation of all public space in that 250 block radius, which is 2 public parks, City of Portland parks, by the way.
Okay, but
So
my question is, why didn't the city of Kalama reach out to the chamber to do this marketing stuff and why did they feel the need to go outside of that?
So this Kalama is an interesting story because in the city of Kalama, it's the port of Kalama that acts as the chamber. There is a chamber in Kalama. It's all volunteer, but they rely on the port. So the port has an interpretive center down there. I know you've seen it. And the port really acts as the chamber. And the port acts as the chamber because the port, Kalama Port, the Port of Kalama, they're a real estate company, right? That's their job. They own real estate, they lease real estate, they have no operations. Longview Port has operations, a little different business model, but Kalama's the Port of Kalama is a real estate company leasing property. So the Port of Kalama put a lot of money into tourism. They're the ones doing Discover Kalama. For that reason, they have all of this property they're developing, and they know that if they can get interest on lifestyle and everything that tourism has, it's going to help their business. Gosh, economic development 101.
I get it. I get what you're saying, but you're saying we offer a service for Cowlitz County tourism. Why aren't we using the chamber as a central point for tourism? They wanted to develop tourism to their real estate and all the stuff they did, but they didn't use the chamber. They
Because
didn't
there
come
is
to
no,
you and say, help us with this.
there's no chamber in Kalama. It's 100% volunteer. It has,
I get that. But you're here telling us that the Kelso Longview Chamber should be the focal point for tourism in Cowlitz County, right?
the implementator,
Right.
the implementator.
Kalama didn't see you as that. They went out to a different group, right?
Well, so I can't speak to Klamath, 10 years into a 20-year plan. I don't know what was happening 10 years ago. I don't know what Cowlitz County was like 10 years ago. I don't know what the chamber was like 10 years ago. So I can't speak to that. I can speak to what's going on today and the role that the chamber can have in Cowlitz County tourism today, not what it could have been 10 years ago. I don't know. I'm actively involved with conversations with Klamath chamber. I mean, again, I believe that there's no reason why the Kelso Longview Chamber can't at the very least take all the back end stuff for those guys. Not only Klamath, but Castle Rock also, those guys are struggling. They're struggling. They don't have the infrastructure in play and we do, and we could absorb that infrastructure for them and really not change the landscape, just take some of the heat off of them. But Klamath Chamber went to actually what really happened there is the port led it and the Klamath Chamber is kind of sitting on the fringes. And the port decided that they weren't getting the support they needed and moved forward. Good for them. I mean, no harm, no foul. They're doing a lot down there. We're all looking at it going, oh, wow, look at everything that's going on in Klamath. You guys too. I mean, we're all doing it.
Well, you've given us a lot of information. I do have a question on another subject. You probably won't like the question, but
Nothing new, nothing new.
Okay. It involves Humane Society.
Oh, the Humane Society.
And what I was told, and I want to know if it's true, and if it is true, I want to know why it would be done, because we've been part of the chamber for many, many years, is when we made a decision to let a contract lapse and see if we could handle the shelter ourselves. Southwest Washington put out Humane Society of Southwest Washington put out pretty much, I would call it's not a full factual hit piece. And I got a call that the Kelso Chamber webpage reposted that on their page. And so I'm asking about that, if that's true and why that would happen.
Yes, that's true. First of all, we repost everything that's local, pertaining to local regardless. We reposted your response also. So we're just information providing there. I have my own personal opinions about the Humane Society for Southwest Washington and the contract, but they're my personal opinions, so that don't really apply. But that's our role as the chamber. We share information regardless of what our personal views are. So we reposted both of them. So yes, that is accurate.
Seems a little odd that we wouldn't have had a call and say, is this true, or what's the story on this?
I didn't call.
Repost things at face value.
Yeah, I mean, and I reposted yours at face value also. It came from your letterhead. Theirs came from their letterhead. I treat everybody the same when it comes to that. If I started calling to verify information that comes on letterhead, I would probably be doing that all day long. So that's the way we've.
So we could just person could just make something up and ask you to repost it and you do it.
If it came on Cowlitz County letterhead and you asked me to repost it, I would repost it. If it came from you personally and it was your personal view and you asked me to repost it, I would not.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And again, we do that for everybody. We repost the city of Longview stuff. We repost the city of Kelso stuff. We repost other businesses that have things going on that wanted to get out into the public. When the increase on the B&O tax happened in Longview, they came to us and asked us to help, get that message out. We don't question, we had a conversation about what that should look like. But I don't fact check what it is they've provided.
Would you say different posts have different tones to them?
Of course. Of course.
So when somebody's calling for action and say, send these letters and do that, isn't that kind of a different tone than just the post we sent out that just kind of laid out what we were doing?
Are you talking about the letter from the Humane Society and you not liking the tone of that? And why would I repost that?
I'm asking you, don't different posts have different tones, and wouldn't a tone of a post kind of give you cause at some point in time?
I think everybody has their own tone. I mean, we could talk about tone right now if we wanted to, but again, if it comes from on a letterhead from somebody who's working in the community that's asked us to repost that, regardless of who it comes from, we repost it. Our job is neutral. We're friends to all, foe to none. That's the chamber's marching orders. So when a friend of the chamber comes to the chamber and says, hey, can you help us get this messaging out? And it's, you know, it came from, in that case, it came from Andrea. There's validity in that from where it came from. We move it on, just like your guys's. I moved your guys's on also.
Well, the difference is the tone was, one was a political hit piece with scripts written into it, asking people to basically send hate mail to us.
Well,
And you helped do that.
yeah. And again, if you guys sent something to me asking for community support on something, I would downstream it also. Again, that's part of our role in the community. I know that there's
Well-
tension between you and the Humane Society
One,
for
we'd
Southwest
never send out
Washington.
a hit piece and
But-
do that,
But I would also tell you guys, maybe take a half a step back. And here's an organization that came into this community and has offered a service, regardless if you're engaged in the service or not. They're doing a community service in this community and have value.
Well, Bonnie, what I would say to that is, do you know how many times that the Humane Society has sat in that seat that you're in right now?
I have
and
no
explained
idea.
their service to us?
No idea.
zero.
Zero. They have not.
Well, I think if they were sitting here right now, they would say, we've tried to get in here and can't get on the schedule. So just fuel for thought. Again, there's two sides to every story. The chamber's neutral in the deal.
Yeah.
It's a
You're not
county
neutral,
decision.
but you answered my question. Yeah.
So again, I passed yours along too, Commissioner. And if you want to send me something else on county letterhead, I'd be happy to send that out.
Mhm.
Also, on a side note, I sent you guys all emails. I'm trying to put together a panel discussion from all of the community representatives. And so it would be nice if we could get, maybe Commissioner Farrell, because you're on the board, that would be a natural place for you. But I've already heard from Kelso and Longview and they're on board. I'd like to, I have that same email out to Kalama, Woodland, and Castle Rock. It would be nice to get a panel discussion where we could be all warm and fuzzy out in the community and show how that is all collaborative.
What board is that?
I'm trying to put together a chamber luncheon that has a panel discussion with one representative from all of the cities in the county and of course, like we do with superintendents, we would release questions beforehand. And again, the idea is to portray to the community that you're all working together and that you all like each other and it's all warm and fuzzy. So I'm trying to pull that off at the end of April.
Okay. Our public meeting, so I see we have a question. Go ahead.
Question, comment is that I'm just observing that Ron Kozlowski, we've had a business in downtown Longview for 40 years and worked for Weyerhaeuser for 39 years. And when I see the discussion Chamber of Commerce, I was anticipating something talking about our local business commerce, and what it really turned into was tourism. So I'm getting back to kind of where Rick was coming from, the old history of Chamber of Commerce working on the commerce, which, as you said, growth, economic development, and voice of the business community. Quite honestly, I haven't seen much of that in the last few years of the voice of the business community. And again, the discussion here, working on taxes and everything else, we've lost some very major business opportunities in our Collins County in the last few years. I didn't see Chamber of Commerce stand up and represent the business community and saying how important this was, et cetera. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. So I'm just trying to get a perspective. Tourism isn't going to support the economic. It's a tool, but it's only a part of the tool. We still need viable economic areas Fortunately, we have Amazon coming in. That'll help at least a little bit in the community. But there is a key one. When you talk about voice, I'm going to go back to the Forest Practices Act that just hit us here on the West Coast locally, taking billions of dollars out of our economic vitality over a number of years. I didn't see Chamber of Commerce come forward representing the impact on us, et cetera, representing that. That is many times the impact of this tourism right now. Tourism and the impact on all the businesses. So I'm trying to understand the tool is went to tourism rather than really the focus of economic development and sustaining our businesses and growing our businesses.
So
That's
fair,
just my opening.
yeah, fair question. I was invited here to talk about tourism. So right off the top, it wasn't a chamber conversation. It was about tourism, which was the conversation that happened prior to me being here. So right off the
Okay.
top. So I've been at the chamber for 2 years and 2 weeks. What's happened at the chamber prior to my arrival, I have no knowledge of. There's no staff left from prior. The record keeping was sketch at best. So anything that's happened prior to the 2 years that I've been there, I can't speak to, and I'm sorry about that. I'm not from Cowlitz County, so I don't even have an historical, personal take on that. But I can tell you my personal background is business ownership. I still own auto parts stores. I own a log truck. I am all about business. That is really the reason why I took the position. I was recruited for this position. I left a very lucrative job to come do this based solely on I think I can help small businesses in the community, and I have the background to do that, but I have no ability to speak to what the chamber was before. I can only talk to you about where we're headed.
Okay, so this Forest Practices Act is an immediate thing in the last months. So that is, again, I'm going to stomp on it. That's very important to all of us in the county and the surrounding counties. So I would hope that the Chamber of Commerce would look at that and join in with the commissioners of the counties that have basically sent letters or are sending letters to the governor, et cetera, on a committee making decisions that are not representative of the people of this state.
So are you currently a chamber member?
No,
So the
I'm
chamber.
retired right now.
Yeah, oh, congratulations. The chamber has a government affairs committee that holds, that are open to the public, so you don't have to be a chamber member, that holds meetings every Monday morning at 7:30. We actively send out information to chamber members about where we stand from a legislative standpoint. We send out the links to, vote pro or con, depending on what the impact is. So all of that is happening. If you're not actively subscribed to the chamber, this is where digital gets us in trouble. So we're doing all of this communication digitally without any paper support behind that. And we miss people that may not be subscribed to the email to get that information. So that's one of the challenges, but we're currently very active. The legislation is still active. This is the last week. So we hold those every Monday morning at 7:30. I'd be happy to send you the information. We'll have the wrap up next Monday. And that's really a function of the Association of Washington Businesses that the chamber's actively involved in.
Okay, so I'll apologize. I just saw Chamber of Commerce. I didn't see tourism. So anyway, but that's what I would look at in part of my seeing the Chamber of Commerce active in our community. And whatever it is, I haven't seen much visibility here.
Yeah, fair
what it's
statement.
doing.
Yeah, absolutely fair statement. And I appreciate it. Again, that was part of my presentation, the advocacy from the city leaders on the chamber and the chamber's value. That's part of it.
Hi,
Hi.
I really appreciate your time and effort. My background's in radio, and I have organized a lot of events, and they are very labor intensive, securing the venue, getting the people, selling the vendors, bringing it all together, all the organization, and you're very, very lucky to break even. let alone go backwards. So I wonder, when I think of the chamber, I think of a legislative body that is supposed to be bringing businesses in here and reducing the regulatory burdens so that businesses can thrive. I don't see the chamber as someone that spends a lot of wheels to put together big events. There's other people that can do that. So I wonder why, when it's so labor intensive and it's so, it just doesn't seem to be a valid time spent for the chamber when we need you to be doing a lot of other things for the businesses in here.
Yeah, so originally, when we talk about Squatch Fest, I mean, that's the biggest event that the chamber does. Originally, that was established based on input from local businesses. Again, they were struggling at the end of January. What can the chamber do to help bring business into the community during a time where they're struggling? And that was the birth of Squatch Fest. That's why it's the last weekend in January. Does it need to be reevaluated? I made it clear in my presentation that we're at an intersection with the event. I have the same questions you do. Is it worthy of the time, energy, and effort? And could the chamber be spending its money and time in some place that's more fruitful? But then you look at the impact on Cowlitz County as a whole, and you start questioning, well, hang on a minute, does it really make sense to pull when you look at 53% of our advanced ticket sales are coming from outside of the area? We're bringing people to Cowlitz County, which is all about economic development. We're supporting hotels and restaurants and the event center and all of those other things. It becomes a much bigger question to answer. From a business standpoint, if it was, Bonnie's events business, I would move Squatch Fest down to Richfield. It's half the cost and closer to the population base. But again, Squatch Fest was started to grow, to bring people in to Cowlitz County in that downtime of the year. And we're the Kelso Longview Chamber of Commerce. Moving outside of Cowlitz County for an event makes absolutely no sense, does not feel good. But if it was Bonnie's event services and I was putting an event on, that's what I would do. It's closer to the population base. The gate would be greater, all of those things. But that's not who I am. So.
And now when you say 53%, that sounds wonderful. But are we talking 53% of 100 people? Of 1,000 people? Of 10,000 people?
So fair question.
How many people are we discussing?
About 1,200. How many people are through the gate? About 800 were paid tickets. The others were giveaways and comp tickets and all of that other stuff. That's down 15% from prior year. And I think, again, that's current festivals. It's the current economics. It's tough right now. We're hoping next year will be easier. Again, it's the 10th anniversary. I'm working on a large LTAC grant application for Cowlitz County, looking for additional support so we can market heavier outside of the area and really try and capture that 10th anniversary. But yeah.
I do online, and I have a pretty good size membership, and we have about 30,000 subscribers. And one thing that I heard consistently is, wow, we didn't even know the Squatch Fest was going on.
Yeah.
Where did they advertise? What did they even do? So I didn't see much activity in the advertising. I mean, that's what my background is too, is advertising.
Yeah.
And so I didn't see that from the.
Yeah, so we spent the majority of well, not the majority, a large portion of our marketing dollars marketing outside of Cowlitz County. So if you're a Cowlitz County or Columbia County resident and you didn't see it, that's not necessarily a bad, because we put together weekend packages and all of this stuff and then marketed heavy south of Clark and north of Lewis, trying to bring more people in.
Okay.
It's just been the last 2 years since I've been at the chamber that we're using a third-party ticketing and have really good ticketing data now.
Okay.
So I have no way to compare to what was prior, though I think we're doing a better job at bringing people in. That's what I'm hearing from the local hotels. If that's accurate or not, again, I don't have any way to compare, but the fact that you're in Cowlitz County and didn't see a lot of it isn't necessarily the end of the world.
Something you're
Though my
concerned about.
personal takeaway, again, my background's all marketing, branding, all of that, is we probably should have dedicated more time, energy, and effort and funding to local also. Because I've heard exactly what you said repeatedly. So that's one of the takeaways.
And can you tell me how many of these were repeated tickets? How do people buy? So this is a 3-day event?
It's a 2-day event. It's Friday afternoon and Saturday, and the ticket's good for both days.
Okay, and did you see a repeat of people the same days, or did they come in for the day
Yes,
and leave?
so no way to
Gotcha.
guide that. We wristband. We scan the original in and then we wristband. So when they come back in, we don't know that.
I gotcha. I
yeah,
gotcha.
so-
So we're talking about 400 people that came in from out of the area.
Yeah,
All righty, thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for the questions.
I have been over to it and it is busy. I no doubt about that. And there is
Oh, but not as busy as it could be.
And there's people, saw one group in a Sasquatch from Utah, so I know they come in from out of the state.
Yeah, and it's probably worth mentioning when we're talking about Sasquatch, we put together a video series where we put poor Seth in Squatch and sent them out to sponsors. And I think that's why our sponsorship was up this year, is we really pushed the marketing side for local business, which is where part of the benefit is to the county as a whole. So that's probably worth mentioning in there.
Okay.
All right. Well,
We've
thank you
taken
guys.
a lot of the chamber's time today and appreciate them coming over.
No, I'm
Yeah.
happy to be here. And again, my end game is inclusive and a better partnership. So whatever we need to do that, it's worth it. And I said this to Steve when he came in to Squatch Fest. I have no issues with anybody at the event center. The staff there is great. They all do a great job. So nothing personal at all against any of those guys. I actually enjoy them. They're super receptive and easy to work with. But I think that there's an ability there for a better partnership.
I just want to tell you real quick, Bonnie, that I appreciate you coming in and bringing what you brought. I think it's obvious and nobody would disagree with the fact that there's probably an opportunity for better communication and correlation between the municipalities and the chamber and the county with regards to a lot of things, tourism being one of them. But I think for me personally, and it's been mentioned a couple of times, we're dealing with a situation to where we have to take a multifaceted approach, and you're just talking about tourism, which I understand. But from a legislative standpoint, we live in a state that is just sucking business opportunity and incentive right out of it, right?
I know.
And so that also needs to be addressed along with the development side of it. I don't know that we can just do one or the other, because they're going as fast as they're coming in, so to speak. And so I commend you on your efforts. I know that it's not easy to come in and talk about the things that you're bringing up, because you're somewhat introducing somewhat of a paradigm shift with the way that we look at what we're doing.
Which I think needs to happen, honestly.
And it's tough sometimes, and it's a difficult conversation. So I commend you for that. But I also feel that it is important just to make sure that, and we're doing this as a county, to make sure that the organizations that we're funding are going back to what their core function is, because it's oftentimes easy to grow outside of that core function. And when we do that, we're no longer doing anything really great. We're just doing a bunch of things okay. I don't disagree with you that the chamber should have a voice in tourism, but I also not at the expense of other things. You know what I mean? There's got to be a balancing act, and that's up to you to do with your role. But I do agree that the siloing that you mentioned is something that, if we could have an effect on anything there would be a net benefit, I think it would be that better collaboration and communication between all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I would challenge the status quo. Honestly, the world is changing, and if we don't figure out how to change, we're going to be left behind. And everybody's lane of travel will shift with the view of what's next. And that's at the core of change management, is how do we balance what it is our core is while we're changing? We could look at millions of companies over the years that where they started and where they're at today don't look and feel the same. But again, that's part of the responsibility of business ownership. And in your guys' case, running the county, what should it look like doesn't necessarily need to be based on what it's always been. And that is at the key of change management and growth. So I would challenge you guys to, maybe every time it's like, well, this is where this person's space that this person's occupied all along. Why are they getting out of that space? To maybe take a step back and say, well, hang on a minute. Is this the way that it's morphing and the way that it needs to morph or not? But this community as a whole isn't good at change. It's like, well, this is the way we've always done it. And I think anytime that comes up is the red flag that maybe we need to step back and look at that. I mean, from a grocery, talk about a change in operations and the way groceries worked over the years. I mean, that's one of those. So I would challenge that. That's my go-to when I hear or start feeling that, well, that's not the way we've always done it. That's a red flag for me. Okay, maybe we need to step back and have that conversation. Why is that? So. Well, I thank you guys for your time. And again, I wrapped it all up for you so you can just read so yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, gang?
Thanks.
Yeah. Mhm. Anything else? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.